This is Death or Prison, brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. We bring you stories of hope and encouragement.
Hello and welcome to the Death or Prison podcast brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. I am Johnny Branham, and I have to my right Elmo Golden, and to my left our guest today, Mike Ryan, who spent an entire 38 years in the Department of Corrections. We're going to be going through a journey of his life. He's going to share some things with you that he's learned along the way, some of the experiences. I want to start out with, were you a Florida boy? Did you grow up here in Florida, or was it somewhere else?
No, sir. I grew up in California, born and raised in the Bay Area. At a young age, my mom had problems, so I had 5 brothers and sisters, and we were all spread out to different foster homes. There was no father in the family. We went to different foster homes. I went to an orphanage, and back then that's what they were called. Stayed there. Me and my brother were together. At this point, some people came in and they wanted a son, so they took my brother. 6 months later, they came back and said, we'd like to try another kid with his brother. Well, his brother's still here. So they took me. We stayed with them folks for all the way to junior high school. We went back to live with my mother when she got right. And she was married to some guy who really didn't like us, so we were sent back to the orphanage. The same family came and got me and my brother, and we continued to live with them in Vallejo, California. Everything was pretty good at this point. She came again and got us. We went back to live with her. Now we took to the streets. She married a guy, somebody new, and this guy, we weren't listening to no reason with this. On his first Sunday married to my mom, all our homies came outside the windows in a bedroom, so we got up ready to go out. We crossed in the front room floor, and he said, this is Sunday, you guys will stay home with the family today. I said, look, you married my mom, you take care of her and my sisters, leave me alone. He snatched me by my hair, and me and my brother got him. And we left. Well, the police picked us up that day. We went to juvenile hall. 3 days later, he came to juvenile hall. He said, listen, I'm going to take you out of here today, but you're going to live under my roof. He lived in our house. He moved in our house. You live under my roof, you're going to be by my rules. I said, I'm not listening to you. My brother said, yeah, I'll listen. It wasn't a half hour later. I watched my brother walk out, and I was there. I really hadn't broken no laws, but it was called incorrigible back then. So I got sent to a military school. I didn't want to be there, so I escaped. The judge sent me back. I escaped again. Still not broke no laws. I just wasn't going to stay where they put me. So he sent me to the Natividad Boys Ranch. Stayed there for a little bit. I escaped. It happened the second time. The judge finally said, I got a place for you where you're not going to escape no more. Now, mind you, I haven't broke no laws. I just kept escaping from these places. He sent me to the California Youth Authority. Well, there's no escaping from there. So I did a year or so in there. They let me go. I lasted 30 days. I was back inside.
Why were you incarcerated, and how old were you?
I was 15 and got out of the California Youth Authority. That was a stigma, you know what I mean? Not many people go into this place coming out. It is a hardcore place. So I walked around with a chip on my shoulder, and we ended up beating a clerk up at a 7-Eleven one night. And I was the only one that got caught, and I got sent back. And I stayed there for 18 months. Came out, didn't last long. I ended up going back in, and then adult time came. Now I'm off and running. So my mom said, let's send you up to your sister in Washington State. So I go up there. She lives in a small town. I wasn't there long before I had met the bad guys, and we started running around, stealing cars, breaking into houses. We got cracked, and sure enough, I got sent to prison for 3 years.
How old were you at that time? When
At 18, 19 years old,
okay.
off to prison again. I get out. I'm living in Seattle, Washington. Now I'm into drugs. Drugs is just it was crazy. It was just one episode after another, but I found a way to supply my drug habit, and that was robbing drug houses. They can't call the police, so I could rob them. I robbed a guy one night, and on the street I heard that he was coming for me. So I went back the next night, and as I was going to rob him again, he was outside by his car. He had a guy in a suit with him. I still robbed both of them, and I left. Well, the guy in the suit turned out to be a very important person. They called the police this time. I got cracked. I'm in the county jail. The judge states, I take it to trial. I fight this. You know what I mean? I tell the judge, look, I did this. I took the drugs and I used them on myself. I didn't sell them. He said, the point here is, I don't care what you do. You could take a handful of sand. The second that you used a gun, you're going away. So they sent me away on this one. In the process of doing this time, about 3 years into it, I escaped.
So you say that you were in Seattle, but we
Yes.
need to establish a little bit more groundwork. How old were you before you were sentenced, and how much time did you get?
I was running the streets of Seattle for probably from 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. At this point, when I finally got hit in the head for the robberies, and I went to prison. I escaped from Shelton Prison, and when I escaped, it wasn't nothing that I planned. It just happened. The opportunity was there, and I did it. I was taken downtown Seattle, still wearing prison clothes, drinking in a bar. Had a buddy who owned a restaurant. He let me stay at his restaurant for the night. In the morning, he gave me money. I got on an airplane and I flew to San Francisco. I had my mom pick me up. I couldn't stay with her because I knew they'd be coming. So she helped me, and I went to New York. My sister out there, I stayed with her. Got a job building fences, stayed out of trouble. And one night, the guy I was working for let me use the truck, so I stopped at a bar and I was drinking. As I left the bar, cop got behind me. I was pretty drunk. Pulled me over. I got out of the truck. I knew I'm in trouble. So he said, let me see your license. I said, I don't have one. He said, let me see the insurance. I said, I don't have that. He said, well, what do you have? I said, I got a buzz. And I walked over and got in the back of his car. That threw him off guard. This was before the computers. This was before they put your hand on there and they fingerprinted you and knew who you were in 2 minutes. So he took me to jail. He was joking with me. We get there, he fingerprints me the old way. He said, I tell you what, since you've been cooperative, you tell me somebody to come get you and I'll release you. So I had given him my brother's name. And the police called her and said, do you know Chuck Fernandez? I said, yeah. He's sitting right next to her. Well, this is Officer such a, if you come pick him up, we'll let him go. So she comes down and gets me. I'm out. I know once them prints come back, they got me. So I leave. And I go back to California.
And you're how old at this time?
At this point, I'm like 26.
Okay.
It's, I stay at my mom's for a little bit. I've been out 92 days at this point. And all's 2 o'clock in the morning, my mom runs down the stairs and out the front door and yelling, he don't have a gun. I already know what it is now. They're here. They arrested me and took me back to Washington State. So when I got to the prison, we got there about 2 o'clock in the morning. They handcuffed me on the cyclone fence with my hand up, so I was on my tippy toes, and put a whooping on me. And they was, because I embarrassed him. He escaped. They're not playing. I went to my first arraignment. The judge said, what happened to him? My lawyer told him he got beat. I got no time for the escape. I had to finish the rest of my time. And I walked out. I left Washington State after that and went to California. I caught an arson charge and was given 6 years. I went to San Quentin to process, from San Quentin to Soledad Central. I'm in Soledad Central a couple years, and I get a job in the visiting room. Didn't want the job, did not want this job. I knew what was going to happen. They have a black working, a white and a Mexican in the visiting room. If you know California prison system, it's very racial. You walk to the chow hall, the guards are telling the whites and the southern Mexican this side of the chow hall, blacks and northern Mexicans this side of the chow hall. That's the rules. You don't never talk to another race. Sure enough, the drugs are rolling in. They don't really search us because we work in there, but they search everybody else. So I'm bringing drugs in now. And I have a guy that when I was in the boys ranch, Mexican guy, Nathaniel, said, Mike, I need you to help me get these drugs in. These guys are getting my stuff as soon as I go in. So I do it. And I give it to him. I get it through and I give it to him. I take my cut. On my day off, I'm laying on my bunk in the cell, and I hear a pounding on my door. I look, and it's a shot caller for the Norteños. He said, what are you doing getting in our business? You should have never took them drugs from him and done that. So when the doors opened, I shot straight to the whites out on the yard, and I ran it down, because this was a major problem. These guys were going to do something.
I want you to, for the benefit of the people who may not understand certain lingo, what is a shot caller inside?
A shot caller is whenever something happens in your race, that's who handles the problem. He'll go and talk to the shot callers to the other race, and they can either try to squash it or it will kick off. In them prisons, them are war zones. Them are prisons that don't play. If you're not gonna fight and do if they call yard out, everybody on the yard, you got to go. If you don't go, you got to get off that yard. Simple as that. It's nothing. It ain't pretty, you know. And everybody, whoever's done time, knows what I'm talking about. So he went and talked to the shot caller for the Norteños, and he came back. He said, "You listen to me, Mike. It's done. It's squashed. Don't do it again." And it wasn't 6 months later, the same guy came to me again, and me being at this point hooked on drugs, and I did it again. And before I left out of the visiting room, I got popped. I go to the hole. I'm in the hole. I go through the kangaroo court. I get 17 months SHU program. So I'm sent. This is before Pelican Bay was built. So I was sent to Corcoran SHU.
You brought up another term, SHU.
Yes.
For the audience, that's like foreign language to them. What is SHU and the hole in these different places?
It is a security housing unit, which is, if in other states, if you get in trouble in prison, they put you in the hole for 10 days, 20 days, or whatever it calls for. In California, if you catch a SHU term, there's 2 prisons in that state that they sent you to. Corcoran SHU, Pelican Bay had not been opened at this time. It was still going through the process of being built. So I was sent to Corcoran SHU. And if you remember the history of this place, and I fell right in here during the months of this happening, the guards, you're in the cell. There's a guy with a gun, and this gun is not in the rubber bullets. This is a real gun. This is a shoot to kill. There are signs on the wall that say, warning, there's no warning shots fired in this unit. The guards at this point, this was national news, world news actually, they would take a white guy and a Mexican out and put them in the yard and let them fight to the death and then kill the winner and film it. One of the guards got tired of this and grabbed one of them tapes. They chased him all the way. He had that tape and he wanted to turn it in, and he turned it in, and it blew that prison wide open for what they had been doing in that place. I spent my 17 months there. My time was up. I'm ready to come out. I'm thinking I'm going back to Soledad.
So Mike, let me ask you something. You say your time is up and you're getting ready to go out. But I mean, all through your stories, I haven't heard of any time you had any place to breathe at. No programs, no rehabilitation.
And there's any
so
level
you're getting
4
out
yard.
as a drug addict because you was a drug addict on the inside, and now they're about to release.
Well, no, I wasn't released. I was released from my shoe term, my prison whole time.
Okay.
Now I still got to finish my sentence.
Okay.
When I go in front of the board and they say, "Okay, we're ready to let you out of here," and I'm thinking I'm going back to Soledad to finish my time, they said, "But since you wanted to play games, we're sending you to Folsom." Nobody wants to go to Folsom in the state of California. They know that's the end of the line. The prison's on lockdown and people are still getting killed. It's crazy. And I asked them, please don't send me there. Well, I went. And I stayed there for 3 more years. I got out, still a druggie. My brother met me at the gate. We got in the car and we did drugs.
You're getting out. At this time, how old are you, and what's the process of what's going on?
I'm 34 years old. I'm going to my brother's house in the Bay Area. It just, from the second I walked out, we were doing crank and the motorcycle lifestyle. Things were getting really out of control fast. But I ended up hooking up with a girl and having a baby. I get arrested again. In California, when you get a violation, they can give you up to a year. In Oakland, the county jail will not hold you 24 hours. If the prison has not picked you up within 24 hours of you getting arrested, they release you. So the prison is there to pick you up the next day and take you to prison. Then you wait to see a board. They'll give you up to a year for your crime. For the next few years, it was in and out constantly with violations, and doing 9 months, 6 months, a year. And it just kept going. Finally, I got cracked and I got a 6-year bid.
What was the 6-year bid for?
It was for a robbery out of Redwood City, California. Now I'm at 3 strikes. This is when the law came into effect, 3 strikes. So now I'm facing 3 strikes. I'm sitting in the county jail. I go to the courtroom and the DA says, this is the 3rd strike nominee. We are going to give it to him. I sit there in the county jail for 9 months. The judge calls me in the courtroom and he says, this is a one-time offer. You take 6 years at 80%, and you're down the road. It's over.
What was the alternative when the 3rd strike hits?
25 to life, mandatory, done. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I knew I couldn't beat this. So he said, I'll give you a minute to talk to your wife. This is my first wife. I said, Your Honor, she's not going to make it past the county jail. I'll take the deal. And I took the deal and I went off to prison. Now I started gradually I tried to stay away from the drugs in prison. I'm tired at this point.
Does faith play a role at any time during
this point? I'm starting to talk to God, but I'm not wanting to give all in because, again, I'm on level 4 yards. You can't show weaknesses, and that's what they consider the Bible weak. I wrote it out. When my release date came, my brother picked me up again. As we're going down the road, he said, prepare yourself. Now, at this point, I have a son who is 47 right now with 5 grandkids. And I have a daughter who, when I got out, she was 7 years old. And my brother's taken me to her. And he just said, prepare yourself. When I walked into the house, it's a drug house. Place is a mess. And there she is sitting on the couch. I looked at the ex. I said, I'm taking the kid. I took the kid. She said, take her. So I took her. That was a Sunday. Monday morning, I'm in the parole office with a kid. After doing 6 years, the parole officer looked at me and said, where did you get a kid? And I explained it to him, and I said, listen, I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to do it right. I can't, if I stay here, I'm not going to make it. My mom and my sister live in New Jersey. I want to transfer my parole. We did that. It took 7 weeks, and I moved to New Jersey. My mom and sister helped me with my kid. I went to get a driver's license. I had to use my mom's car. I went to her work. My mom was talking to a lady named Wendy. Way out of my league. Never even thought about it. I met her. We shook hands. We talked for a minute. I used my mom's car to go take the driver's test. That was on Monday or Tuesday. Friday, Wendy called me and said, hey, let's go out and have a drink. So I went out, had a drink. We've been together ever since.
How old were you when you first?
I was 42 years old when I went out with Wendy. First time when we went out and we hooked up, and we got a house together. She helped me. Her and Christina got along tremendous. Everything was going the way it was supposed to, but I still didn't have God in my life. And at that point, I didn't realize it, but I know that I look back now, things would have never turned to what's coming. And I know that. I got a CDL license. I'm home every night. I don't want to go on the road. I want to be home every night. So I get a job running mulch up and down the turnpike. I love it. The money's good. We're living good. This goes on for about 4 years. Finally, I get back into drugs.
What were you using? You said you were using crank before.
Crank before, and New Jersey really didn't have no crank. And I'm not one that likes the heroin. I got to have something to make me go fast, so I got the coke. And it was just flowing in. And I'm hiding it from Wendy. Wendy has never even smoked a joint in her life. So she's not aware of any of this that's going on. But we're arguing now, and things ain't going right. We were going to buy a house. We had good money coming in. But now a lot of my money's going out on drugs. My brother buys a house in Gaston County, North Carolina. 3 acres of land, a modular home for $90,000. I said, Wendy, we can go down there and buy one of them right now. Let's get away from here. So I take Christina, we drive down. On a Sunday, we spent all day driving, Sunday. We get to Chuck's house, and I end up sleeping all day Monday. Tuesday, she has friends next door that she met, 2 little girls, and they're telling her about the school, and she's on me. Dad, you gotta take me, So I take her to register her at school on Tuesday. In my brother's house, he's a long-haul truck driver, so he leaves on Wednesday, he comes back on Sunday. He has a girlfriend living there. And a guy comes to him and says, I'm trying to get off drugs, Chuck. can you help me out? I want to get back with my wife. So my brother lets him live in the back of the house. Him and my brother's girlfriend turned it into a 5-star love story. Well, I see this, and I throw him out. My brother's gone over the road. I throw him out. I go to register my daughter at school, and I get arrested for capital murder and armed robbery. That's what makes it capital.
All right. Mike, there's a lot of people watching this via tablet, YouTube, all over the world. And you've expressed what seemed to be a troubled life throughout. If there was anything that you could say to these men, these young women, anyone in the audience that you have now, looking back, can say to someone today that would give them any type of hope or anything that you took out of that, what would it be?
I always thought, and it wasn't a joke, but this was just something that I was doing. And I look back at it now, and anybody that looks back and sees this, it wasn't a joke. It wasn't a game. It was all a waste. It was a waste, because what I'm doing now, I wish I could have been doing this 40 years ago. I'm at peace now. That's something I never had. And anybody who knows it's been sitting in them cells for years and years and years, you're not at peace. It's hard. Admit it. It's hard. I don't have to deal with that no more. To me, I accomplished something. Only by the grace of God. Only by the grace of God. At this point in my life, what I'm talking about, I still hadn't even thought about Jesus. I knew he was real, but I wasn't going to let that in my life. To me, I didn't give it the time of day. The biggest mistake in my life was all the years I wasted.
Amen. Thank you, Mike. You've been listening to Mike Ryan share his testimony. This isn't it. We stop at a critical, crucial point where you talk about there's some murder that happens, but we don't know what happened after that or before that. So we're going to get into that on the next segment. This is the Death or Prison podcast, but we say choose life.
I can change the world. Feed one, teach one boy and girl. Maybe we can change the